Hi guys, welcome to my channel. It's Vesna here. Let's get cooking. So today I'm making a dessert. It's called Jaffa, which is kind of, if you've ever gone to the store and had those biscuits that have the orange kind of marmalade and covered in chocolate with a biscuit bottom, that's kind of the inspiration for this. So you will basically need double of this. So we have 1/4 cup of oil, 2/3 of a cup of sugar, and 1.5 cups of flour. You'll need that twice because you are making 2 doughs. And with that, you're gonna have 3 eggs and half a package of the baking soda. So that'll be, baking powder. So that'll be 5 grams. And you'll need, for each dough, you'll need 100 milliliters of milk. And that's just for your dough base. Then I'll talk about what you need for your filling and what you need for your, there's like a juice that you make. So what you need for that and what you need for the top. But first we'll start off with the dough. So I always like to separate my egg yolks and my egg whites. And I like to do this because it makes the texture of the dough a little bit nicer or a little bit more softer, a little bit better for us. We prefer it that way. So what I do is I beat the egg whites into stiff peaks. Then I slowly, once they form stiff peaks, I slowly add kind of 1 tablespoon at a time of the sugar. And I beat that until all the sugar is incorporated. So basically you don't have any of the crystals showing. It looks very, very smooth. Then I go ahead and I add the egg yolks, the flour, the baking powder, the milk, and the oil. And pretty much in that order. Sometimes the milk and oil I interchange. Now, because we're making 2 doughs, the process is the same for both doughs for the base. Then to the yellow, you will have a yellow and a brown dough. To the yellow dough, I add the zest of an orange. And then to the brown dough, I add a tablespoon of cocoa powder, just unsweetened cocoa powder. And that's all there is for the dough. So I'll show you the process. I'll play some music so you can watch, but I'll stop talking. So here I just wanted to show you what it looks like, what you want the egg whites to look like. Basically you want them to stay on the whisk and not fall down. That's kind of the stiff peaks that you're looking for. And then just slowly add the sugar. So you will see the sugar basically dissolves or gets mixed in with the egg whites and you don't have any crystals. And once you see that, then you add the rest of your ingredients. So your flour, your oil, but first you start with your egg yolks, then you put your flour, then you put your baking powder, then your oil, and then your milk at the very end. And you mix all of this until it is combined evenly. So you'll get kind of like a thicker than a well, actually like a thicker consistency, not too thin and not too thick. And that's all there is to this. But like I said, at the end, you wind up putting in an orange to the yellow dough, the zest of an orange, and then 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder into the other dough because you make this twice. So once it's all combined, then you can go ahead and grease a pan. Now I was using just a large rectangle Pyrex pan. You can use any kind depending on how thick you want the bottom part to be, but this thickness, this size of the Pyrex pan is perfect for the thickness because it will rise. And so you grease the bottom part. What I did was I did like Pam, the cooking spray, because I really didn't want it to stick. So I sprayed it and then poured the dough. And then this completes your first dough, the preparation part. What I do is I bake them at the same time. So then you prepare your second dough, and again, you do the same steps as with the first dough, except you add the cocoa powder. So here I'll show you the cocoa powder I added. Now mine is just a Kirkland brand cocoa powder, unsweetened. And so I just added it to my bowl, just doing 1 tablespoon at a time. And you can use your mixer to mix it, or you can use your hands, whatever. I just used my hands and I made sure that it was mixed really well. So, because you want it to be nice and brown and chocolate looking. And now for this dough, I did not put it in a Pyrex pan because it doesn't have to be the same size as the other one. All you have to do is just bake it. So I always use my Pamper Chef stoneware. I would have used stoneware for the other dough as well, but I don't have, this one is a little bit smaller than the Pyrex, and I don't have anything bigger than this other than the bar pan, but I find that it's too shallow. And because you're going to be putting kind of layering everything, you want to have something that you can cut in. So I don't want to use any non-stick cookware. So that's why I think the glass works best. So I just pour it in and then I bake both of them at 350. Now, because I'm using the Pyrex, that one bakes for a little bit less than the stoneware. So the Pyrex it baked for about 15 minutes, and the stoneware baked for about 25 minutes. So I put 30 minutes, but it was starting to smell, so I went to see, and about 15-ish minutes, I noticed that the Pyrex one was done. So basically what you want to do is when you take out your toothpick, you want to make sure that it's clean. Then you go ahead and let it all cool off, and you have to squish and break apart the brown dough because you're going to be making your syrup. And you're going to be putting it into your syrup. So for the syrup, you will need a pot. Into the pot, you're going to put about 2 cups of water, 1 cup of sugar, and the juice of an orange. You might need a little bit less water if your orange is really big. And you're basically going to mix all of this together and cook it. It doesn't have to boil, but you cook it until the sugar dissolves. And once this sugar dissolves, you're going to let it all cool off because you're going to be putting that dough into this syrup. So you want to make sure that it's cool enough that you can actually handle the dough, because you're going to be squishing everything and making sure that it's all mixed in together. So you're using your hands quite a bit for this. Okay, and then for when it's done, you're going to set it aside and let it cool off. And while it's cooling off, you're going to put your apricot jam on top of your yellow dough. So this is the other ingredient that you will need. So I just use this European apricot jam. It's from Croatia. You can use any kind. I just really prefer this one. It's from Podravka, and so that bottle is about a half a liter. So I am using about 3/4 of this bottle. Again, it's to your preference depending on how much of the jam flavor you want, but about 3/4 of the jar is pretty good. Okay, so then you're going to spread it evenly on the yellow dough. And as I said, I keep everything in here because I can cut it. It's going to keep everything together. It's not going to leak because it's going to be juicy, and you're going to be keeping it in the fridge. And you want to make sure that it all stays in the pan. So I spread it evenly, adding more as I see fit. And then by the time I'm done this, the syrup is probably cool enough for me to handle it. So I'll show you the next step. So what I've done is I've broken apart the dough, the brown dough, and now I'm just putting it into this pot, and I'm going to just push it down so it gets nice and wet, and then I'm going to use my hand and squish it all together so that it absorbs all of the liquid. You can use a spoon or put gloves on if you want. It's just us eating this, so I don't have to worry about any of that. But once you've squished it and made sure, or like mixed it in together and made sure that it's all of the syrup is absorbed, then you're going to put it and pat it down on to where the jam is. So you have to pat it all the way down and make sure it's flat. I kind of slap it around a little bit, so that way it's nice and firm and it sets nicely, and it'll allow me to pour my chocolate sauce on top, or chocolate ganache on top, evenly. So as I said, you're just going to keep putting this on top, and you're going to be pushing it down so that way it's nice and flat. And once that is done, then you can go ahead and prepare your ingredients for your chocolate ganache. Now, this is how I make mine. If you have a recipe that you really like to make and it always works out well for you, then you can by all means use that. It could be any kind of chocolate ganache, but this is what I use. So depending on what I have at home, I either use 3 strips of baker's chocolate, or in this case, I had only this much baker's chocolate, and then the rest I used chocolate chips. And I used about 120 grams of chocolate and about 30 grams of butter. I first melted the butter, then I added the chocolate, and then I also added 3 tablespoons of sugar and 3 tablespoons of water. And then I just melted everything until I got a chocolate ganache consistency. Again, if you have a different recipe where you use different things, by all means, do it whatever works best for you. And once that is done, then you're going to pour it over top of your cake, the brown dough, and that's all there is to it. Then you're going to obviously spread it so it's nice and even and looks nice. Then you got to let it set. Now it tastes, you can eat it in about an hour because you want to have the chocolate set, but it tastes best the next day because all of the juices and everything had time to combine and kind of really set in and soak up. So, but that's all there is to it. It's not difficult. It's a little bit time consuming. There are steps to it, but it always turns out really good. So I hope you try it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've tried it, and let me know if you have any questions. Now, I tried to take a picture of the whole thing, but before I had a chance, somebody got into it. That somebody is my husband. So anyway, here it is missing a few pieces, and here it is cut up, and that you can see all of the layers in there. So thanks for watching, and leave me a comment. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button and notification bell. Thanks so much. Have a great day and stay safe.